There are cities that feel loud, even when no one is speaking. And then there is Ottoman Istanbul, a place where night doesn't really arrive. It slowly settles in, like a tired breath. If you stood near the Bosphorus at that hour, you wouldn't feel urgency. You would feel distance. The water doesn't rush. It drifts gently, almost like it's remembering something. On one side, Europe. On the other, Asia. And between them, a city that quietly holds both, without asking permission. Tonight, we are not talking about empires or wars. We are looking at something more human, more fragile. Street food. The kind of food no one remembers in history books. But somehow, it kept people alive, day after day. Before the city wakes, there is a strange kind of silence. Not empty, but full of quiet life. Inside a small bakery, a man is already awake. His eyes are heavy, but his hands know what to do. Because dough doesn't wait for feelings. Flour falls into the bowl, water follows, and slowly something begins to form. Push, fold, wait, repeat. It's almost meditative, like the world has been reduced to this simple rhythm. Outside, the streets are still dark. Even footsteps feel careful, as if the world is fragile and shouldn't be disturbed. And inside, something ordinary becomes bread. Not beautiful, not perfect, but warm, alive, necessary. As the sky slowly changes color, the first sellers arrive. One of them carries a small wooden tray. Bread rings. Light. Warm. Covered in sesame seeds. Early simit. Not food meant to impress anyone. Food meant to accompany life. People don't stop. They pass by slowly. Take one, leave a coin, and continue. No greetings. No stories, just brief moments of connection between strangers who will never meet again. And somehow, that feels strangely comforting. Not far away, another smell begins to rise into the cold air. Warm, thick, grounding. Soup. Lentils simmering slowly over a low fire. A large pot that feels patient, almost understanding. People arrive quietly, one by one, holding small bowls in their hands, as if holding something personal. They wait, not impatiently, but gently, like time is not something to fight here. Steam rises between them, soft, fading into the morning air. A pinch of spice, a little salt. Nothing dramatic, but in that moment, it feels like enough to face another day. And if you listen closely, the city has a heartbeat. Footsteps on stone, a spoon touching metal, water being carried carefully. Then silence again. Not emptiness, but a kind of shared calm. Like everyone agrees, without speaking, to move gently. And in that rhythm, food appears. Not as luxury, not as celebration, but as care. A quiet way of saying, you can continue, even if you are tired, even if you are uncertain, even if you don't feel ready. Just continue. As the morning settles into the city, the streets begin to change. Not suddenly, not loudly, but slowly, like a thought forming in someone's mind. People are everywhere now. Not rushing, just existing in motion. And somewhere between all of them, the smell of spices begins to rise. Warm, dry, slightly sweet, like memory itself. You find yourself moving toward the market, not because you chose to, but because the city gently pulls you in. Stalls appear one after another, wooden tables, cloth covers, small hands arranging goods with care. Cinnamon, pepper, dried herbs, coloured powders, each one carrying a different part of the world. And strangely, nothing feels chaotic. Even the noise feels soft, like it knows not to disturb the air too much. A merchant sits quietly behind his spices. He doesn't call out loudly, he just watches, as if he already knows people will come anyway. And they do. A woman stops. A man leans closer. A child stares at a pile of bright red spice like it's something magical. No one is in a hurry. Even time here feels like it slows down a little. And then, something sweeter begins to appear. A small vendor with a metal tray. Honey pastries. Thin layers of dough, folded carefully, soaked lightly in syrup. They glisten in the morning light. Not rich in the modern sense, but rich in feeling. People take them gently, almost carefully, as if they don't want to break the moment itself. For a second, you might forget where you are, because the sound of the city fades behind the sweetness, and all that remains is warmth and softness. But life continues. A little further down the street, another kind of food appears. Simple grilled meat skewers. Nothing extravagant, just fire, smoke, salt. The sound of something cooking slowly over heat. The smell lingers in the air, mixing with everything else. And somehow, it feels balanced. Sweet and savory, warm and cold, movement and stillness. Like the city never chose one feeling, it simply accepted all of them. People walk past each other constantly. Some talk, some don't. Some carry bread, some carry nothing at all. But everyone shares the same invisible rhythm. Eat, walk, pause, continue. A cycle so simple, it almost disappears if you're not paying attention. And in the middle of all this, you realize something quiet. Nobody here is trying to rush life, not really. Even when they are busy, they are not fighting time. They are moving with it. The market slowly begins to soften as the sun rises higher. Shadows shorten, voices blend, and the city feels less like a place and more like a living memory unfolding in real time. By the time the sun begins to lower itself over Istanbul, the city changes again. Not in a dramatic way, but in a way you only notice if you are paying attention. The light becomes softer, shadows stretch a little longer, and the air feels slightly slower, like the whole city is exhaling after a long day. The markets begin to calm. Stalls are still open, but the energy is different now. Less movement, less urgency. People are no longer searching. They are simply wandering. And in that wandering, evening food begins to appear. Near a quiet corner of the street, you smell something frying, oil gently heating, batter sizzling softly. Small fried snacks, golden on the outside, soft inside. No name that matters too much, just food made for the evening. People take them while standing, not speaking much, just enjoying the small warmth they bring in the cooling air. A vendor sits nearby, watching quietly. He doesn't count customers. He doesn't rush anyone. He just waits, like time belongs to him for a little while. As the sky darkens further, lanterns begin to appear, one by one, soft lights hanging from wooden posts, glowing gently in the growing night. And with them, the city feels different again. Not empty, just quieter. Now the smell of soups returns, thicker this time, deeper. Stews simmering slowly in large pots, chickpeas, lentils, meat cooked until it almost falls apart on its own. People gather around these places without needing to speak. They simply arrive, like they were already expected. There is something comforting about it. No decisions, no complexity, just warm food in a warm bowl, held in tired hands. And for a moment, nothing else matters. A little further down the street, you hear soft laughter. A group of people sharing food together. Not loud laughter, not chaotic, just the kind that happens when the day is ending and no one is pretending anymore. The city is no longer in motion like before. It is settling, like dust slowly falling in water. Everything becomes slower. Even footsteps seem softer now. And if you stay long enough, you start to feel something subtle. The day is not disappearing. It is transforming into memory, into warmth, into silence that feels alive. Lanterns sway gently in the night air. Food stalls begin to close slowly. Fire is lowered, pots are covered, and the streets begin to empty without truly feeling empty. Because Istanbul at night is never really silent. It just speaks in softer tones. Steam, light footsteps, distant voices, and the memory of food still hanging in the air. Night in Ottoman Istanbul does not arrive suddenly. It settles, like a blanket slowly placed over a sleeping city. The lanterns now feel farther apart. The streets feel wider, not in space, but in silence. And everything that once felt active begins to soften. Most stalls are closed now, wooden shutters lowered, pots cleaned, fire reduced to small glowing embers that slowly fade. But the city is not empty. It never truly is. Here and there, a few vendors remain, not because they expect crowds, but because some people still walk at this hour. People who are not in a hurry to be anywhere. People who simply exist in motion. At a small corner, a man serves soup again. The same kind as before, but now it feels different. Slower, heavier, more intimate. The steam rises gently into the cold night air, and the sound of the ladle touching the pot feels almost too loud for the silence around it. A customer arrives. He doesn't speak much, just stands there for a moment, as if deciding whether to stay in the world of movement or pause inside this small warmth. Then he accepts the bowl, and everything becomes still. Nearby, the streets are almost empty now. Only a few footsteps echo between stone walls. A cat crosses slowly, disappearing into shadow. Even sound feels like it is trying not to disturb the night. And yet, food is still here. Not as activity anymore, but as comfort. A final anchor to the day. Something warm in a world that is cooling down. In another narrow street, a small vendor folds his cloth slowly. He does not rush. There is no need. Time is no longer counting anything now, only passing. He looks around one last time, not to check for customers, but to say goodbye to the street in his own quiet way. Then he extinguishes the lantern, and darkness becomes slightly deeper. For a moment, the city feels suspended between what it was and what it is becoming. No longer day, not yet rest, just transition. And in that transition, you realize something gentle. All the food from earlier, all the movement, all the voices, they are still here. Not physically, but as traces, in the air, in memory, in feeling. The streets now breathe slowly, almost like they are tired, but peaceful. And every sound that remains feels distant, softened, blurred at the edges. Even your thoughts begin to slow, not forced, just naturally. Like the city is guiding you into stillness without saying a word. Lanterns disappear one by one until only faint light remains in far corners, and then even that fades. What is left is not darkness, but calm, a quiet presence, a city resting without fully disappearing.
Now the city is almost fully asleep, not because it decided to stop, but because it simply ran out of things to say. The streets of Ottoman Istanbul feel empty at this hour, but not lifeless, just softened, like everything has been put back into place. A faint wind moves through narrow alleys. It touches stone walls that have seen too many days to remember them all. Somewhere far away, water from the Bosphorus continues its quiet rhythm, still moving, still existing, even when everything else slows down. And in this stillness, you begin to remember, not in detail, but in feeling. The morning bread seller, the warm simit passed from hand to hand, the lentil soup rising in soft steam, the spice market filled with colours that never shouted, the sweet pastries that melted quietly in the mouth, the evening fried snacks warm against the cooling air, and the night soups, heavy, slow, comforting. None of it felt important in the moment, but together it formed the life of a city. A life built not only on rulers and history books, but on small, repeated acts of feeding each other. Even now, in the silence, it feels like the city is still cooking somewhere. Not loudly, not visibly, but in memory, in atmosphere, in the invisible warmth that remains after everything else has gone quiet. The lanterns are gone now.
The stalls are closed. The streets are still. And yet, nothing feels truly absent. Because a city like this never fully disappears. It only rests. And maybe that is what makes it feel so human. It works. It eats. It rests. It breathes. Just like the people who lived inside it. Now even your thoughts begin to slow. Not forced, just naturally fading, like sound leaving a room. There is nothing more to follow. No more streets to walk. No more food to describe. Only silence and warmth and distance. And in that silence, you can imagine yourself still there, standing in a quiet street of Ottoman Istanbul, not moving, not searching, just being, until even that thought becomes softer and softer, and finally, nothing needs to continue anymore.